rising 93 glorious meters above New York City Harbor, Lady Liberty beckons. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. The Statue of Liberty was a gift from France to the fledgling United States of America, a new nation formed from the blood of the immigrants who gave their lives for freedom. My country, sweet land of liberty, less than 150 years later, is embroiled in an ugly battle over immigration that undermines the foundation of the very reason the country was created: the opportunity to dream the American dream. The U.S. is a noble nation of over 300 million people. We love our democracy, revere our Constitution, and pledge allegiance to our flag. We sing of how proud we are to be Americans. But memory is a fickle thing. Underneath all of our patriotism lies a truth we have conveniently forgotten. We are almost all immigrants. The citizens of the U.S., including both those who won the geographic birth lottery and those with enough money or influence to gain citizenship, now want to put up walls, both literally and legally, to keep out other immigrants who now desire that same chance to experience the land of the free and the home of the brave. Why? Why are we, a nation of immigrants, so rabidly opposed to immigration? One well-worn argument is that immigrants are taking jobs of American citizens and driving down wages for unskilled positions. This argument is unfounded. A 2012 study by the Bureau of Economic Research found that between 1990 and 2006, immigration to the U.S. actually drove wages up by 1.7%. One reason for this small but important increase is because immigrants are consumers as well as employees. Those who are fortunate enough to come to the U.S. to work cycle that money back into the economy by buying goods and services. The more who do that, the more profitable businesses are and salaries increase. Additionally, a 2012 study by the Small Business Association found that immigrants to the U.S. are very entrepreneurial and start businesses, own businesses, and hire employees at higher rates than native-born Americans. An experiment run by the United Farm Workers set out to test the theory that immigrant workers are taking jobs away from American citizens. In a campaign called Take Our Jobs, the UFW announced 500,000 job openings in the agricultural industry. Jobs usually filled by immigrant workers. Out of the thousands of people who contacted the UFW to inquire about the openings, exactly 11 homegrown American citizens actually accepted the offer, and none of them lasted the entire growing season. Why? Because these jobs that immigrants are supposedly stealing from hard-working citizens are actually jobs that no citizen wants. They are low-paying, with long hours, doing back-breaking work, and the UFW could not seem to give these jobs away. Without immigrants to do the jobs that American citizens refuse to do, our food industry would collapse. Another common refrain in the debate is that the influx of immigrants is diluting American culture and changing our national identity. That is, in a word, nonsense. Other than the Native Americans from whom we took our land after crushing their population with disease and warfare, we are all descended from immigrants. So which national identity are they talking about exactly? The culture of the U.S. is not static. It was not the same 100 years ago, and it will not be the same 100 years from now. We are certainly not the same culture we were when the first European settlers formed Jamestown in 1607. And the complaint that immigrants don't speak English? Well, it might be helpful to remember that the U.S. doesn't actually have an official language. Furthermore, this would imply that any English-speaking immigrant would be welcome in the U.S., in which case our issue is not actually with immigration, but with multiculturalism. This is seen in the argument that immigration will cause white people in the U.S. to become the minority. Statistically speaking, that is true. But why is that a problem? Unless you can make a strong case as to what the negative consequences are of that, objecting to a non-white majority is simply racism. It should be obvious by now that I am quite passionate about the topic of immigration. This is because it has personally affected me in the form of my adorable 5-year-old sister. On the night of January 11th, 2010, my parents dropped a wonderful surprise in my lap. Literally. It was a newborn baby girl that had been given up for adoption by her 15-year-old birth mother. My parents were thrilled to bring this beautiful Malaysian baby into our home and adopt her as their own. The adoption process in Malaysia was smooth and easy. We assumed, as American citizens, that the American process would be equally smooth. We were wrong. It took 4.5 years, mountains of paperwork, several trips to the embassy, and tens of thousands of dollars before my little sister finally received her U.S. citizenship. My parents are both highly educated and had the financial means to complete this process. But it was brutal on us emotionally. We were in many ways trapped, unable to travel or even step foot in our home country because my little sister did not have a U.S. passport. It gave me a new and deeper understanding of the plight of immigrants. If it was such a struggle for my family to go through this, imagine what it must be like to be poor, uneducated, and unable to speak the language or understand the extraordinarily complex path to citizenship, yet be desperate to get your children out of a war-torn country. Desperate people do desperate things. How far would you go to ensure your child's safety? Humans are herd creatures. We have an innate need to identify with a group. And it seems once we have found our group, we will go to extreme measures to keep it safe. That is understandable. But first, we need to make sure that these risks are real and not imagined. In coming face to face with my own prejudice, I had to ask myself, am I an American first, with a duty to protect American resources from non-Americans? Or am I a human being first, with a moral obligation to my fellow human beings? I have made my decision. Now you must make yours.